more violent. Hi, my name is Joe. Thank you for watching my video. Today I'm talking about capitalism and socialism. So I hope you find it interesting. But let me start by saying I'm not really fond of either capitalism or socialism. Um, I used to favor capitalism, mostly just because I thought that in a capitalistic society, at least there's better money management and really more opportunity to do things. But overall, I still don't think it's a good idea. I think most people who are advocates for the free market really agree with me already. They just don't know it. And I'd like to point out a few things. For instance, like look at our country's history and how bad the work conditions used to be. Most people would probably agree that when the government stepped in and gave us the 8-hour workday, or getting paid for overtime, things like that, that was probably a good idea. Most of you probably enjoy that benefit. And that's really not a free market, principle for the government to step in and do that. I'd also point at regulations like the anti-monopoly law, which most people also agree is a good idea. And that itself is not a free market, principle as well. Now, socialism, like I said, I always thought that was an even worse idea. I know my college professors were always into it, which doesn't surprise me. You got to think about who their boss is and what a bigger boss means for them. A bigger paycheck, more security. But when you look around and you think about it kind of logically, it never made sense to me. Kind of for the same reasons that capitalism didn't make sense, really. I mean, the main thing I didn't like about capitalism, and the main problem with it, is it's too much power in too few hands. When you look at socialism, it's even more power in less hands, and they have guns. And if you look at the different countries right now, I know people used to. I mean, for a while it was kind of a cool thing to be into Cuba, because Michael Moore made that video. I'd like to point out, for one, he doesn't even try to pretend that that's investigative reporting. He told them he was coming, and they showed him exactly what they wanted him to see. I mean, they knew he was making a documentary. It's not like they're going to show him the worst hospitals of Cuba. And furthermore, we have people who are constantly trying to get themselves smuggled into America from Cuba, risking their lives to do so. Um, Look at China. China, more economically prosperous than most communist socialist countries, basically have slave labor, forced abortions. I mean, along with a lot of other human rights violations. So all in all, I just don't think it's a good idea. But growing up and you're pretty much taught there's those two options. There's capitalism or there's socialism. There's corporate control or there's government control. I was just never satisfied with that. I started doing some research. I came across an entirely different economic model called the distributive model. To put it in its most basic terms, the distributive model basically calls for businesses to be smaller and more locally owned, or for big businesses to be employee owned. And most of you are probably saying, well, that's never going to happen. Well, I'm here to tell you today that it is happening. It's happening with the company I'm working for, Ambit. Some of you have never heard of Ambit. There's a good chance if you haven't heard of Ambit, it's because you're living in a state that hasn't been deregulated yet. And what I mean by deregulated is that the government and the anti-monopoly law are forcing competition amongst your utility companies. So if you can't now, at some point in the near future, you're going to be able to decide who you want to purchase your gas and electricity from, and you're going to save a lot of money. So it's a good thing. But as I was saying, Ambit. If you were to break down the structure of Ambit, you would see that it's basically numerous big businesses and small businesses within one entity. And its main operating function is the concept of mutualism, which I'd like to contrast with the Hostess Factory. Most people have heard about the Hostess Factory. It was in the news. Depending on which news station you were watching, you heard one of two things. You either heard about the greedy CEOs and owners and how they're trying to suck the life out of the employees, or you heard about the union and how it was trying to suck the life out of the company. Now, both were wrong, but you only heard about one side depending on which news station you watched. And I'm pretty sure if you were to look back at how it got to that point, it would have started out something like the owners or the CEOs, they're looking down at their employees and they thought to themselves, how much can I get out of them and how little can I pay them. And then so the employees, they unionized to protect themselves and probably had really reasonable demands at first, just trying to get a living wage and some benefits. But then as time went on, they started thinking the same way. They looked at the company and they thought to themselves, how little can I work and how much can I get paid? I mean, that's not hard to figure out why that would fail. Now contrast that with Ambit. Like I said, primarily based on the concept of mutualism. Take for instance when I signed up as a marketing consultant. The first thing I did was I went to my family, went to my friends, I asked them to be my customers. Most of them said yes, and then they saved money on their utility bills. I got paid, so everybody won. Now if you look at the incentives that are built in to the Ambit system, you would see that it's basically to the benefit of the people above you. And I'm hesitant to say your boss or your manager, because in a weird way, even though there's people above me, I don't really work for them, but at the same time I do. You would understand it more if you learned about the system. But as I was saying, it's in their best interest to help you succeed. In fact, your success is more important than theirs, really, because they get paid more based on your success than their own. And they need you to promote so they can promote. And beyond that, the promotions, I mean, if one person gets promoted, it doesn't take away a spot from anyone else. It doesn't mean there's less promotion spots. It just means you got promoted based on your numbers. The promotions work independent of each other. So if you are more efficient, if you're faster at work in the system, if you're better at in general, it's a matter of time before you start passing people up. I've never been able to say those types of things about anywhere else I worked. I'm really excited I'm able to say it now. So this company, I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's a big step in the right direction for America, especially because of how successful it's been. It's spreading like wildfire. And there's companies popping up that are trying to be just like Ambit and mimic them because they know that's the only way they can compete. So my personal experience with it thus far has been pretty good. Within the first 2 months, I got my initial investment back and turned a profit and got my first promotion. The integrity of the company is very high, almost too high. I'm in Texas. There's a lot of other companies around, so I have a lot of noise to compete with as a consultant. Ambit is always the cheapest or right next to it. I mean, the rates are always changing, so there might be a little gap where they're not exactly the cheapest, but generally speaking, they're the cheapest, or like I said, right next to it. And other companies will make themselves seem cheaper by skewing their numbers, and Ambit doesn't do this. They're very honest about what you're going to be charged. It kind of makes my job a little bit harder. I have to jump through a few more hoops to make a sell, but all in all, I haven't had a hard problem selling it. Now, as far as the team members of Ambit, looking at the Ambit teams, there seems to be like a family aspect to it. This makes sense to me just because, I mean, you have a bunch of people working together for mutual success. In those conditions, it's not hard to get along. So it's a pretty good place to make some pretty good relationships. The main reason why I got involved was I had read a series of books by an author, Robert Kiyosaki, called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And within those books, he recommends getting involved with network marketing if you're interested in starting your own business or you want to learn about business. So I did some research and I found Ambit. And Ambit, the product, made the most sense to me because everyone I know uses gas or electricity. And everyone I know would like to save money. So it's not hard for me to sell. Now, as far as sales go, I've never been into sales. I always felt bad about talking people into buying stuff. But with Ambit, I'm talking people into savings. So, I mean, I can do that. And the other part about it that I really like is, I mean, I've always wanted to be a business owner. But, I mean, when you know that 94% of businesses fail, it's hard to take your savings or, take out a loan and try to start one up. Especially for me, I have a family. I mean, I've never been willing to take that risk and lose everything for their sake. But with Ambit, I'm basically offered safe passage into becoming a business owner by giving a product and a business that I can work on my spare time, which will eventually become my full-time job. And then later on, because you build up residual income, I may not have to work at all, or I can use that residual income as a cushion to start something that I really want to do. So overall, it's a great opportunity. If this is something you see yourself interested in doing, please contact me. My email is in the description, as well as my websites. The joinambit.com is how you can check the rates if you want to become a customer. The Why Ambit Works is how you can learn more about selling Ambit. If you want to sell Ambit, my recommendation is not to just jump into it right away. I recommend you sign up as a customer if you can, because if you have your own before and after bill, it just makes your life so much easier when you go and talk to people about it or you're trying to sell it. So, like I said, my email's down there. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me. If Ambit isn't in your state yet and you want to know when it comes, email me and let me know. I'll let you know. If you have any questions about how to work Ambit, I've been working with a few people long distance and it's working out pretty well so far, so I don't mind doing it some more. So thank you for your time. Have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed the video.